So, hello, beautiful people. We're going to continue with the intercostal, typical intercostal nerves to be specific, which are the anterior primary rami of the thoracic nerves from 2 to 6. Great. So, they are from 2 to 6. Great. They're the anterior primary rami, of course. So, to continue with the course and all these stuff, let's imagine that these vertebrae are behind the sternum. This is just a drawing to illustrate things, but I need you to imagine that these ones are behind the sternum. So first thing we should know that the intercostal nerve gets out from the intervertebral foramen. Foramen means whole, inter means between, vertebral means the vertebra. So it takes origin from like between the the vertebral, so it's from the intervertebral foramen, and then it goes lateral behind the sympathetic chain. Here's that's the sympathetic chain, dudes. Okay, it's even like medial on the medial side here. Okay, so that's the sympathetic chain, goes lateral behind the sympathetic chain, and there is a cute organ that I really like that area. Who's that? It's still behind the sternum, of course, but who's that? Even a cardiac notch is here. Oh, that's the lung. But I drew the lung wrong. Maybe I should draw the lung like this. Great. Who's that? And that's the lung, and it has a layer of parietal pleura above in pink, and the lung itself is in purple. So the intercostal nerve here lies between the parietal pleura. Let me decrease that font and remove the outline. Okay, so it's between the parietal pleura to be precise, and the posterior intercostal membrane. There is a membrane here, or let me not do that. Let me do that. Okay, there is a membrane here. What did I do? Okay, I'm sorry for that. There is a membrane here, and it continues as a muscle. Continues here as a muscle. Here's that membrane. Oh, that's the posterior intercostal membrane. So, it runs between the parietal pleura and the posterior intercostal membrane. And then when it goes in front, it goes between two muscles. The first one is the internal intercostal. I'm sorry for that. And the innermost intercostal, and that, by the way, that's called the costal groove. And in that costal groove, there are several things that goes into that groove, and we like to call them that way. Look, if we go here and we draw 3 dots, so we're gonna begin with that dot, and then that dot, and then that dot. What did I just do? That's not a flag, dude. That's van, VAN. That's not a car stall. These are the structures passing in the costal groove from above to below. So the first one is the vein, intercostal vein, of course, and then artery, and intercostal artery, of course, and then nerve. Okay, who's that? That's the typical intercostal nerve we're talking. Okay, so first thing, it goes from the intervertebral foramen, and then it passes laterally behind the sympathetic chain, and then after that it goes between the parietal pleura and the posterior intercostal membrane. Of course, the pleura is in front, and the posterior intercostal membrane is posterior. Okay, and then when it goes that way, it goes between two structures. It passes in a costal groove between the innermost and the internal intercostal, and in a groove that has those 3 structures: vein, and artery, and then a nerve. Okay, and it then passes in front of the internal thoracic vessels. Of course, that's called the neurovascular bundle. And then it passes in front of the intercostal vessels. There's an artery passing here, and it arises from the first part of the subclavian, so that's the aorta. Then there's a subclavian. Okay, and that, anyway, like, not to mix you up, that's called the internal thoracic or internal mammary artery. It passes in front of the internal thoracic vessels. Great. Okay, and still, that's between the internal intercostal and the parietal pleura. I know that drawing is not really illustrative, but I need you to do your imagination with me, because I cannot draw in 3D. Great. When it's done, it goes to pierce the internal intercostal, and then the anterior intercostal membrane, if you remember that here, and then the pectoralis major, which was a muscle taken that way. Okay, that it begins from here. No, that one was called the pectoralis major muscle. That was a muscle here, if you remember it. Okay, we'll call the pectoralis major. Okay, so it pierces the pectoralis major muscle. The first one, of course, the internal intercostal, anterior intercostal membrane, and the pectoralis major muscles. If you want to talk branches, okay, branches are what you basically do when you want to relax. Oh, what do you want to do when you relax? Oh, I want to articulate. I want to plant. I want cola, and I want something called a moga. What is that? That moga in Arabic means a wave. That means as if you want to go to the beach and relax, okay? But remember, moga in Arabic means a wave, and I really tried to make a mnemonic in English, but no problem. I always remember moga is a wave in English. So again, in Arabic, I mean. So the first one is to articulate. What is articulate? It gives articular branches to the joints of the ribs, okay? And then plant. Plant. What is basically plant? Plant means plural. PL. And basically, specifically for the parietal plural. Okay, and ANT is the first letter, are the first three letters of anterior cutaneous branches. Okay, the anterior cutaneous branches divides into medial and lateral, supplying the sides of the thorax. Great, with the skin over the thorax. Great, right off the thorax. That's the thorax. Great. Medial and lateral. So again, first thing, articulate. Articulate articular branches for the ribs joint. Second thing, plant. PL for parietal plural. Plural branches for the parietal plural. ANT are the first three letters of anterior cutaneous branches, which divides into medial and lateral to give the front of the thorax. So to continue, I want to articulate. I want to plant. I want a cola. For collateral branches. Okay, so if we go to that drawing here, okay, if that's the intercostal nerve, it lies like here. That the collateral is on the upper border of the rib below. Great, that's here. The collateral site, the upper border of the rib below, that's on the and that one is here. We explain the course. So again, first thing, articular for the joints of the ribs. Okay, and I want to plant for parietal plural, ANT for anterior cutaneous branch, that gives medial and lateral branches to give these in front of the thorax. The collateral branch, which lies on the upper border of the rib below and still supplies the intercostal muscles. Great. LA, lateral cutaneous branch. Okay, the lateral cutaneous branch pierces the internal and external intercostals, and besides the serratus anterior. Okay, the serratus anterior muscle, and then it goes like to the mid-axillary line and to give me anterior and posterior branches to give the thorax side, branches for the thorax side. Great. So again, the lateral cutaneous for lateral cutaneous branches, which pierces the internal and external and the serratus anterior muscle. If you want to draw the side of the thorax, we're going to do this. And let me consider that's the sternum. That's the sternal angle. And go that way. The sternum has like okay, that's the side. Okay, there was a muscle with 6 digitations, and going to the medial aspect of the scapula. I cannot really draw it right now, but it was the serratus anterior, the one with the 6 digitations. Here's that body that then goes to the scapula. Here's that's the serratus anterior muscle. Okay, so it pierces the internal intercostal, the external intercostal, and the serratus anterior muscle to give the thorax side and axilla and stuff. Okay. So again, lateral cutaneous branch that pierces the internal and external intercostal muscle. Besides the serratus anterior, that's in the mid-axillary line. That's the mid-axillary line. To give me the anterior and posterior branches to supply the sides of the thorax. Great. So again, I want to articulate articular branches for the ribs joint. I want to plant BL for pleura, parietal pleura to be precise. ANT for the anterior cutaneous branch, which gives me medial and lateral to give the front of the thorax. I want some co for the collateral on the upper border of the rib below that basically supplies the intercostal muscles. Lateral cutaneous branch, which arises on the and goes on the upper border of the rib below. No, I'm sorry. Okay, lateral cutaneous branch, which like pierces the internal, external, and the serratus anterior muscle. Okay, and then goes like in the mid-axillary line to give me anterior and posterior branches to give the sides of the thorax. Great. Then I went to Moga. Moga again is like the wave in Arabic. So consider you want to go to the beach. Great. So Moga M, muscular for the intercostals. GA is ganglionic. Each nerve goes to a ganglia. The ganglia give white and gray ramus communicants. The white ramus communicants and the gray ramus communicant. One of them, the white one, is myelinated, and it's preganglionic. The gray one is postganglionic unmyelinated. Great. That's not important now. So again, a quick recap for the typical intercostal nerve, which are the anterior primary rami of 2 to 6. It arises in the intervertebral foramen. It passes behind and lateral of the sympathetic chain. It goes between the pleura, which is in front, and the posterior intercostal membrane, and then it passes in the costal curve between the internal and innermost intercostal muscles within the neurovascular bundle, VAN. Remember the 3 dots, and it's like below the intercostal vessels. Great. And then it goes between the internal intercostal and the parietal pleura again, and then it pierces in the anterior intercostal membrane, and the internal intercostal. The internal intercostal first, and then the anterior intercostal membrane, and then pectoralis major, and to give me the anterior cutaneous branch. Right. For the branches, I want to articulate, so articular to the joints of the ribs. I want to plant BL for pleura, parietal pleura, and then ANT for anterior cutaneous branch, that terminal one, which gives me the front of the thorax, and then, by the way, it gives me medial and lateral. And then to get the thorax, and I want some collateral going on the upper border of the rib below. It gives the intercostal muscles, LA, lateral cutaneous branch, and that pierces the internal and external intercostal and the serratus anterior. That then goes, that's in the mid-axillary line, and then to get the sides of the thorax. I want to Moga MU is for muscular branches for intercostal. GA, ganglionic branches, where each nerve is connected to a ganglia, the corresponding sympathetic ganglia, by white and gray rami communicants. Best of luck, y'all.